Buddy, and welcome to another CIT tutorial. Today I'm going to show you some basic hotkeys. My hotkeys are really important. It's kind of like a one hand on mouse, one hand on keyboard program. So you always have to be pushing a hotkey pretty much when you're using it. Alright, so let's get started. The first and most important hotkey in Maya is the Alt. It allows you to navigate in 3D space. You hold down Alt and you left click, you will rotate. So you can rotate around objects. If you hold Alt and you middle click, you will pan. This is a commonly forgotten one because it's not a button that you would normally think of on a mouse. But say I'm over here and I'm trying to rotate around it and my object's over in the middle over here and it won't let me rotate around it and you're like, oh no, how do I get back over there? Well, you can pan. Very useful. And then the right click with Alt is zoom or dolly. By default you can also zoom with the scroll wheel, but if you're middle clicking, sometimes the scroll wheel will move on you, and some people have that disabled, and that's your own personal preference. I don't disable it because it hasn't ever bothered me, but I don't know what your mouse is like. So anyway, that's the most important hotkey, but there are many others. So for instance, I'm just going to throw some objects here onto the image plane, just so I can show you a few of the other ones. Alright, so right now, as you can see, we're in a wireframe mode. Objects don't have any surfaces on them, or they appear they don't. There is a hotkey to switch between the different views. If you hit 4, that's wireframe. 5, that's shaded. That's very handy, especially since when you open a project by default, it's always in wireframe. So you pretty much always have to hit 5 when you start a new project. Not a super big annoyance, but now you know a faster way to do it than having to come up here and say, oh no, I'm in wireframe, oh, I need shaded. And also, 6 is textures. I don't have any textures on right now, but it's just a rough preview of the textures that are on the objects. It's not very accurate and doesn't look very good. It will look a lot better when you actually render it. But this gives you a rough idea, so if you're trying to lay out some UVs or something, you can see, you need to get your words in a certain place on your object. That'll kind of give you a rough idea. 7 is lighting. I don't have any lights in the scene right now, so it all looks black. But that's the shortcut key for that. And then 8, if you ever hit 8 and you're in this view and you don't know what it is, I'm not sure what it is, but to get out of it, you come over here on your left, and you click on the perspective. I'll bring you back. And be sure to re-click the selection tool. That's if you ever get, trapped, more or less, in that view. So anyway, a few of the other shortcut keys that you need to know. The main ones are Q, W, E, and R. These are your move and your tools, your basic tools that you'll use. Q is your selection tool. It just has a regular cursor. You can click on objects. You can drag marquees around objects. Pretty basic. It's a good default tool to work with. W is move. Q, W. This brings up the move trident, as you can see, and it defaults in the middle of the object. And you can move the object around. And you say, oh, well, there's only three arrows, but you can move it in any direction because you can move it behind the arrow. And shortcut key that you all should be very familiar with is Command Z, Control Z on Windows. That is one of the few shortcut keys in Maya that uses command instead of control for a Mac. Maya tried to keep it consistent by keeping most of the control hotkeys the same between both. Okay, anyway, so that's move is W. E is rotate. Brings up the rotate thing to rotate your objects. You can either click on a line to constrain it to that direction, or you can click just kind of in the middle of the circle and you have a free rotate. I really don't like the free rotate though, because it will get you messed up. It won't stay lined up with anything. R is scale. You can scale it in all directions. And you can also, if you click on the middle cube here, the little blue one, you can scale it proportionally. This is really, really handy. I use it all the time. And those are your basic tool keys over here. There's a couple of view keys that you need to do. F will fit your selected or focus your selected object into your view. So this is also handy because this will recenter your position. So if I'm over here and I was working on an object over here and then I need to work on this object over here and I'm trying to rotate around it, and yeah, I could just pan, but in more complicated situations I wouldn't be able to just do that. I can hit F, it'll recenter my view on this object, and then I'm rotating around that object. This happens quite frequently when you're working on different scales of objects. So F's a very good one. A will zoom out so you can see all the objects in your scene. This is really good with a small scene like this, but it can zoom you out too far if you have a whole environment set up and stuff. So just be wary of that. You can always, hit F and zoom back into something particular. Command G is group, just like Adobe products. Sadly, there is no ungroup. To ungroup, you go to Edit, Ungroup. Let's see, what else? Oh, okay, so I said Command Z is undo, but it's like, well, is there a redo? There is. Shift Z. So I undo that. I can redo that with Shift Z. That's not unified between any programs. Every program seems to do it a little differently. Like some programs do Command Y, some programs are Command Shift Z, some programs are just Z. This one is Shift Z, so you know. The basic copy and paste commands work in Maya. Control C, Control X, and Control V. I'm not Control, Command. Sorry. I don't really like to use those unless I'm transferring objects between files. That's pretty much the only use for them. Say if I need to copy this cube, the better way to do it is to duplicate it. And that's Command D. And now I have two cubes. Command D. So I know I'm showing you a lot of tools and I'm throwing all the information at you right now, and you're probably not that familiar with Maya yet, but you can use this video as a reference later. You can come back, you can say, oh, I don't remember how to center my view. I remember seeing it at some point somewhere, and you can come back to this video and say, oh, it's F. So anyway, using the hotkeys will make you much more efficient, because if you're always over here saying, if you're like, oh, I need to have the radio session tool, you come over here and you click it. You have to come back over here and work on whatever you're doing. You have to come back over here, oh, I want to rotate it. Come back over here. You waste a lot of time moving your cursor back and forth between the two. So it's a really good idea to try to learn these hotkeys. The more you work with them, the better you learn them. Oh, here's another one that's kind of big. Spacebar. It goes between the last view that you used. Now, because I hit 7 or 8 or whatever it was that went to that weird white paint view, that's the last view I used. By default, it's this 4 view. And so if you hit spacebar, you'll go up to the 4 view, and then it's like, okay, it has the top, the front, and the side. So you just hover your cursor over the window you want and hit spacebar again, and then you'll be in that view. And these views are what's called orthographic. There's no perspective. As you can see, there's no vanishing point on my cube. It's showing all corners and all sides equally. It's not like perspective where if I came down here, you can see there's a vanishing point, you know, right in the middle over here. These lines are vanishing away to get perspective. But these are orthographic. These are really good for modeling. You can get exact, you can get your lines lined up and such, and you're not trying to fight vanishing point perspective stuff. So that's space. Yeah, and if you ever want your 4 views back and you can't find them, by default I think it's the second button here. So you can just click on that and go back to your 4 views. Really handy. If it's not there, you can come here, and I believe it's, you can go to any view individually. So that's some basic hotkeys. I can't think any more at the moment, but as I'm sure there's some that are kind of particular to certain using certain tools and doing certain operations, and I'll try to cover those as I cover those tools. These are the basic ones you need to know. Basically, the only thing you need to remember from this video is Alt, Q, W, E, R, F, A, and Command Z. If you know those, oh, and spacebar. If you know those, you're good. Oh, and if you hold down spacebar, it brings up this hot box. This is every menu in Maya. If you're new to Maya, I would avoid using it. It's really cool and handy and fast. You can get to any menu really quickly, but it's really easy to click on stuff you're not meaning to. So I would avoid it. Just make sure you just tap spacebar. So anyway, and I hope to see you all again soon.